Chris Emma has been at Haugh all day, and he files this report. Hello, Emma. What was it like up there today?
Boys, how we doing? Yeah, practice number 5 of OTAs here at Haugh as the Bears got back to work once again. And the story today was Caleb Williams addressing the media. This comes a little bit more than a week and a half after the Seth Wickersham book excerpts came out, in which his father, Carl, was quoted, and the pre-draft concerns that Williams had were made public. And Caleb stepped right up to the podium today. He was eager to address it. Let's get right to it. Here's Caleb Williams with his opening statement, and this is going to take about 4 minutes, but he's speaking without script and speaking from the heart.
Yeah. So let's get this started. First, let's start off with it is what everybody would love to ask about is this whole storm that happened. It wasn't something that we wanted to happen at this point. We're focused on the present. We're focused on now. We're focused on, trying to get this ship moving in the right direction. And I think so far that's what we've been doing. But for this to come out, it's been a distraction. So coming up here and talking about it and addressing it is important today. And so that's what we're here to do. Next is all that went down, all that was said. Yeah, I had a good visit at the other place. Minnesota, with Ken O'Connell, good staff and all of that. Obviously, he just won Coach of the Year award and things like that. So obviously good staff and things like that. But something that keeps getting lost, something that keeps getting, I think, not being addressed the way it needs to be, is the fact that, I went on that visit first, came here, and then after I came here, I went back home, talked to my dad, and, all of the things that were supposed to be these big things that everybody's been talking about recently. One never happened in the sense of they were all thoughts. They were all ideas. And I think if you're in the situation, I think if your son or daughter, anybody is in the situation to be in that position, I think you think about all of the options and and you look at it, the history and the facts and all these different things. Those are thoughts that go throughout your head in those situations. So, all of those were thoughts. And then after I came on my visit here, it was a deliberate answer and deliberate and determined answer that I had, is that I wanted to come here. And just like Ben spoke about, obviously, the past years, as everybody knows, it's a fact that quarterback play, there hasn't been a 4,000-yard passer. There's all these different things that come up. And so, being able to have those thoughts is I think, fair to be able to have, good and bad thoughts. But like I said, I came here on a visit. And like I said, just like Ben said, it's a challenge to be able to come in here and try and turn around. And that was the main goal of all of that, is to, through all of, what was, going on, through all of what happened in last year and previous years, I think that was enticing. I think that was something that was glaring to me, that I wanted to come here and be the guy and be a part and be a reason on why Chicago Bears turned this thing around. So that last thing that was said and all of that, I think, was the most important thing, is that I wanted to be here. That I love being here. I love my teammates. I love all the people that got me here, family, friends, Ryan, Kevin, Floos and Shane, all those guys that went through all of that process with me to get me here. But it was all those things, like I said, were thoughts. But the main goal and the main objective of being here is to turn around. That's why I was selected number 1. And so, that's what we're here to do. That's what they brought me here to do. That's what they brought all these guys here to do. Joe, DJ, all these different guys. And that's why they brought Ben here. And so, like I said, it's a challenge. And we look at those challenges and, we don't laugh. We look at them really, really seriously. And, we go attack them, to the best of our ability to go and change it and turn it around. So, open it up.
All right, Emma, out of what you heard from Caleb Williams, what did you think was the most interesting?
Point of clarity first, that is ship with a P. I just want to make sure we're well aware of that.
Thank you very much.
Dump them.
Good looking out, yes. Look, There's been a lot of discussion about this the last 2 weeks since this came out from Seth Wickersham. And I've been asked the question, do you think this is a story? Do you think this is a non-story? I think it's neither. I think it's just context and confirmation to what we already believed was true. This wasn't a congressional hearing. Like, we didn't come out with the pitchforks today, and he didn't need to do anything. He didn't owe anybody in that room anything. But this is what a leader does. And your father's being quoted in a book where you're putting out some of your dirty laundry out there. Nobody can blame Caleb Williams or Carl Williams for feeling the way they did about the Bears. And frankly, so much of what they feared proved to be true last season as a rookie. But as a leader of a team, and as an NFL quarterback in particular, you have to own up to this stuff. You have to get up to the podium. You have to speak on this and make it clear for everybody, for your teammates, for your coaches, which I think was already done recently. But I think it's important on behalf of a city that loves its football team. I know there's a lot of people who've just tuned this narrative out, and a lot of people have said it's not a story, they don't care. But I think there's a lot of people who really do care. We're paying attention today and eager to hear what Caleb Williams had to say. I'm not surprised that he handled himself great. That's the Caleb Williams that's come across ever since he came in, and now 13 months ago to this building as the leader of this team and the guy that they believe is going to be the franchise quarterback. He handled himself so well today, starting right there, not even starting with questions, speaking from the cuff for 4 minutes and really getting out in front of this. So bravo to Caleb Williams for really addressing this head on.
Yeah, I love that he came out and addressed it and dealt with it. And then I thought he got stronger and more comfortable as his media stint went on. Lawrence made the point earlier that maybe he could have been a little more concise in this opening statement. And in listening this second time, I hear that as well, that he could have possibly. But he chose to just speak off the cuff and deliver it that way. And now he's done it, and hopefully this can be the last of that stuff. Hopefully there is nothing else to come when this book comes out first week of the regular season. What do you think, Chris? Are we done with stuff?
Caleb was asked about that. Is there anything more coming? It sounds like Monday of after week 1 is when you're going to get this book coming out. And Caleb kind of laughed and said, no, it's been all covered. Look, I think it was really important that he did speak today. Because I completely agree with what you're saying. He had to get out in front of this and put an end to this, because you know how good he is up at the podium and how comfortable he is in his own skin. The fact that he could get up there like that and just speak from the heart, really address this thing head on, I think it puts an end to this. There's going to be obviously more follow-up as we're doing right now, but the news cycle is going to end with this now. And all it took was Caleb Williams getting out there, being himself, expressing a genuine appreciation for the Bears and where he's going right now. I think that came across to everybody who heard it. I think he really came across well today.
Obviously, there's going to be questions about his dad, who is also quoted in the book. How do you think he did handling that?
Well, look, Carl Williams is an important figure in this, because it's not just the parent of a quarterback. This is a quarterback in Caleb Williams who does not have an agent. So he's leaning on his family. He's leaning on his father and people in his inner circle as you get further down the road. This is year 2 right now, but if everything goes really well, man, and you're talking about 2 years from now that getting that quarterback contract worked out, you know that Carl's going to have a key figure in this. He's going to be a really important part of this, as well as anything else that's going to come up through Caleb's tenure. So this is really a strong introduction to Carl Williams through this story. Caleb was asked today with a direct question: does your father speak for you? Here's Caleb Williams.
No. No. I actually shut my dad down quite a bit. He has ideas. He's a smart man. And so I listen, and I always listen. And I'm very fortunate to be in this position in the sense of, playing QB, but also very fortunate to have a very strong-minded father. And so, we talk very often. It's like my mom and my dad are my best friends. And so, being able to, have conversations with them to understand that everything they say also is, portrayed on me. So I think that's the part of it. But other than that, no, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm very fortunate to have a father, that's super strong-minded, that's always there, always wants the best for his kid. And I think, any of y'all that has a kid or, anything like that, a niece or nephew that you love so dearly, they try and help and you try and help and put them in positions that the best position that you can. So that's all he tries to do. But no, definitely grown man. And, I shut him down quite a lot just because, in season, out of season, it's something that you have to do. He cares so much about me and, my future. And we've been along this journey so long together that, all he wants is the best for me. And so if anything happens, he's super high-headed, and it's more of like, all right, like, go ahead and go away, reset and things like that. So, love him to death and things like that. And like I said, super fortunate to have him. But, we have talks about it, understanding that, it's the right place and the right time. And then, there's times where it's not.
Oh, man, I have a lot of empathy for a kid trying to control his dad who helped set him up for this entire freaking life, And Emma, and just so the listeners know, Carl has been around, and people have been trying to get Carl to talk more all through the debacle of last year. And he resisted for the most part. There's just been like
a couple tweets here and there.
Just a couple tweets. But the number of times he said no to Shane as we tried to get him on, the number of times.
But I mean, he would talk to Shane. He just wouldn't come on the air.
He wouldn't come on. And and now he spoke to Seth Wickersham just a little. And then Caleb had to speak just a little. And now here's Caleb up there having to do his thing. I bet Dad speaks even less from this point forward.
I mean, look, at the very core of it, it's a father who cares a ton about his son.
100%.
And that's the beauty of it. And I don't think Caleb wanted this in the book. I'm sure he was really getting on his father for this. But everything that Carl has done for Caleb, from seeing through his high school days, challenging him as a young quarterback and a young man, living on his own before he got to college, to this decision to leave Oklahoma for USC, everything Carl's been a part of now up to the NFL level. It's all about a father who cares so much about his son. And the entire context of this story with Caleb, his concerns for the Bears, Carl certainly what he felt, it's trying to find the best for his kid. And all the options that they sought out, whether it was different leagues or options in the collective bargaining agreement, it comes down to Carl cared a ton about his son throughout this process, and obviously still does. I'm sure Caleb did say, Dad, let's back it down a little bit. I don't want you speaking publicly on this kind of light, but it all comes back to the idea that Carl cares for his son.
That's so funny. All right, what else do we need to know what happened up at Haugh Hall?
So, Ben Johnson obviously spoke about what came through on an Albert Breer story this week about Caleb Williams' body language. And consider that Ben Johnson, obviously, once he gets into the building, sits down and watches a lot of film for himself, sits down with Caleb Williams, goes through last season. And one thing beyond just the football side of it was Ben Johnson really caught an eye to Caleb Williams' body language. When he gets sacked and he gets up and he's got this look on his face, or this look with his arms, he just got this sadness to him. And rightfully so. You lose 10 games in a row. It sucks. But Ben Johnson wants to convey what body language should look like for a quarterback. So we got to ask Ben Johnson about that today. Here's Ben Johnson.
You were joking with us last week about your body language being something you wanted to work on. And there was a report that Caleb's body language is something that you guys are focusing on in meetings and all of that. What specifically do you want to work on him with in that respect?
Man, there's adversity that's going to hit every team every season. You don't know when it's going to happen. We might lose a few games. We might have some turnovers, and yet just the wherewithal of we're steering the ship. We're going the right direction. It's not woe is me. We are going to take everyone around us, we're going to elevate them, and we're going to look to forge ahead to what's next. And so it's not dwelling on the past. It's not whether it's last season, last play, last game. We learn from it, we grow, and we move on. And so our body language needs to reflect that as well.
What are some examples that you give Caleb about body language of quarterbacks that you work with, that you've seen, that you want him to kind of reflect? And how do you come about kind of this realization as you were studying up on him coming to this job?
No, we early in the process, we sat down and we watched some tape from a year ago, and we talked it through. It's like, do we really want to, is this what we want to look like or not? And we come to an agreement. No, it's not. And okay, we learn from it and we move on to the next thing. So, it's body language is a huge thing. Demeanor. We don't want to be a palms up team where we're questioning every. No. That's, to me, that's a little bit of a sign of weakness, and we don't want to exhibit that from anybody on the team.
How does that apply to DJ Moore? There were some instances last year where his body language was caught on camera and caused some people to ask some questions. Is it similar with him? Have you talked to him about?
Yeah, we've talked to the entire team about what we want it to look like, what good teams do, what playoff teams do. This is the example we're setting, and this is the direction we're going. So the good news is this: we have a phenomenal coaching staff, a lot of which were former players in this league and did it at the highest level. And what they say carries weight with our guys. They know what it looks like. We have a number of guys that we brought in free agency this year that they know what good football looks like as well. So yeah, it's all about educating, showing them what we're going to be about going into next season.
Setting that standard for the entire team, setting a culture, quarterbacks, wide receivers, everybody. His version of Dan Campbell's culture setting, Lawrence, I absolutely love it from Ben.
I do too. Emma, how have you seen the practices go? Because there's a lot of thought into how a team needs to be kind of wrangled by their head coach. So far, over the stuff that I'm reading from you, other reporters says that Ben Johnson is not here for playtime.
Yeah, look, this is my 11th season now, going into my 11th season covering the Bears. I've seen a lot of these practices before, and typically when you hear a coach raise his voice or curse somebody out, it's an assistant coach. It's a position coach getting on one of his guys and stopping an individual drill or even a team drill and saying, get lined up right. There's been 2 times now in 2 practices I've seen, one each time with the Bears full squad out there. And there's been 2 yelling moments, and both times it's been Ben Johnson. And today there was another one of those, and the offense was getting lined up, and they were a little slow out of the huddle. And Ben Johnson said something that I absolutely cannot say on a 50,000-watt radio station. And like the entire field, the entire sidelines heard it. I kind of did a double take, like, who's yelling? Oh, gosh, it's the head coach again. So Ben Johnson was asked about what he's looking for in terms of getting lined up right and focusing on those details. Here's Ben Johnson.
I saw you guys make them go back in the huddle several times. What exactly are you looking for in the huddle and as they come out of it?
Yeah, there's a certain way that the play needs to get communicated in the huddle. There's a certain way that the break should sound to us around us that means that we're ready for business and we're ready to get going. And if it doesn't sound that way, then we're just not going to allow the practice to go south. Fatigue is something that we're going to combat. The longer practice goes, the more fatigue guys get, and the mental toughness has to come through of still doing the little things correctly. So that's a part of it.
Emma, did I hear you correctly with middays? Is there a lowering of the volume of music at Bears practice these days?
Yeah, I want to clarify that. I'm glad you mentioned that. Something I said did get misconstrued. There is music going. It's the same as it's always been. I don't think it's as loud as it's been, at least for parts of team period. There is music going, but my point, which I was making, was that you hear voices of coaches more than you did in the past. And maybe it's just because I was right there on the sidelines today, but I had been for a lot of these as well. The music's still going, but the coaching is very present. It's very strong. And if you're coming out for a practice in training camp in July or August, like, you're going to feel that presence. You're going to hear Ben Johnson. You're going to hear Eric Bieniemy and this entire coaching staff getting after it. These are still up-tempo practices. Music is absolutely a part of it. But the coaching and what you're hearing from these guys is kind of – it can overpower some of the music and overpower what you're hearing out there. And that's a great thing to have. Like, you're feeling the presence of Ben Johnson every day he's out there.
Chris, any nuggets, tidbits we can know about practice today, sir?
Couple of quick ones to close out. Jalen Johnson was not present due to a personal obligation. He's back in California for a charity event. It's, of course, excused. These are voluntary practices. Luther Burden, Kyler Gordon, TJ Edwards were not practicing. Soft tissue injuries is the term that Ben Johnson is using. We're going to learn a little bit about Ben Johnson's way of addressing injuries before the injury report is out during the season. For the soft tissue term come out a few times. And then Ozzie Trapillo was working with the first team offense at left tackle today. Ben Johnson was asked about something which I've said on the station before, and I believe could still very well be the case, which is that Darnell Wright is in play to move from right tackle to left tackle. It's something they've not ruled out. For now, Darnell Wright is working at the right tackle position, which, of course, where he's played the last 2 years. They're giving consideration to what gives them the best offensive line configuration for the future. When you consider it, you've got 4 of your 5 starters on the offensive line set through 2027 after the Joe Thuney contract extension. That includes Darnell Wright with the 5th-year option in play. You've got continuity potentially for this offensive line. So this is a big picture decision. It's not just about one guy. I don't think you're going to have a decision in the coming weeks. It might be something you don't really get to until training camp, but it's in play for Darnell Wright to make that move from the right side to the left side.
Emma, as always, man, we appreciate your hard work. Thanks for joining us.
Take care.